Hello, and welcome to another edition of Film Sessions. I'm Brandon, and this is, of course, Seahawk Scouting. Well, I figured it was time we take a little bit of a divergent path off the one we've been currently on. We've been looking very thoroughly at the tackles, or at least a few of those tackles on the front end here of this draft. So I thought, why not move over to the other side of the football and take a look at a positional grouping, which frankly is probably my favorite as it concerns our Seahawks for this draft. And the thing I like about it most is that this draft is just loaded to the hilt with Seahawk corners. About 10 years ago, Coach Carroll came to the Seattle Seahawks, and he had a certain standard in mind as it pertained to cornerbacks. And it was not as much about the type of player or looking for a certain type that reads or sees the field a certain way. It was almost a little bit about base physical measurables for the position. And what they were looking for, first and foremost, was 6 foot tall corners and up with 33 long inch arms or longer, an ability to run somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.4 to 4.5, but they weren't as worried necessarily about the speed aspect of things. It wasn't the biggest concern for them. They kind of took these base metrics forward throughout this time with Legion of Boom era and even going onwards when you look at the guys that they tend to draft. There are few and far between that do not get over 6 feet tall. You find one outlier here or one outlier there, like a Ugo Amadi, and it's guys that are drafted specifically to just play the slot corner role. So when you're looking at cornerbacks for Seattle, you want to look for outside 6 foot corners. The other thing you want to look for in these drafts and know that this is what Seattle's going to gravitate towards is zone-based cornerbacks. There's two types of basic cornerbacks overall. Certainly, there's a lot of teams that play both types of schemes, and it goes backwards and forwards with that, where you've got to be asked to do a little bit of both. But you want to find a guy that does predominantly more zone than a guy who does predominantly more man, because that's what our scheme is. We are very heavy zone centric. It is not something that we really go off of very often into man at all. So we want to see these zone corners. This brings me back around to why I love this draft so much. When you look at this draft, it's just loaded with 6 foot cornerbacks, 33-inch long arms who played zone principles, who played in a lot of schemes that are very similar to what Seattle plays with the single high stuff, and then them playing cover three on the corners on the outside. So this gets me excited. I hope Seattle can somehow find a way. I know they only have a very few amount of draft picks as it concerns this draft, but there's a part of me that hopes very much they can somehow find a way to get themselves a couple of cornerbacks out of this draft, because you may very well be finding two of your future starting quarterbacks who will be very good quality players in this league, especially playing within this scheme. So first up today, we're going to be taking a long look here at Rodarius Williams out of Oklahoma State. This is the brother of Greedy Williams, I believe, who played at LSU and was drafted by the Cleveland Browns a couple years ago. He's had some injury problems at the next level, and he's been okay. But he will be a second cornerback in this particular draft who had a brother play already in the pros, being Melifonwu out of Syracuse is also another guy following in his lineage. So it'll be interesting to see how both of those two guys do, if they're able to be better, as is sort of forecasted with both of these two players. I think theoretically Grady's still got a chance to do some things, but I sure like the tape on this kid, Rodarius Williams. So let's dive on into the tape. Let's see what this kid's got to offer, and let's see why I think he would be a great fit for our Seattle Seahawks. Okay, so we're going to give Rodarius Williams a good look here, and I wanted to start off with some of his highlight film here for 2019, 2020. I think it'll give us a good little view of him before we get into a little bit more of his game footage. And the thing that stands out to me, of course, is that he's a good zone corner here. He's starting these plays out in the zone, and then he's covering up deep, which is, of course, basically your beginning point with all of our cornerbacks. Where you start as a Seattle corner is not an ability to stay sticky in coverage. No. It is actually to make sure that you keep yourself clean over the top. You don't get stacked. And that is what he continually is able to do in coverage. We get a little bit of press look, but just ends up trailing him. Good job, reacts to ball, good closing skills, loose hips here, solid tackler. Not a lot of holes in this guy's game as I watch him. To me, he's fairly clean in that respect as a prospect. Again, just see his read and react there, playing zone, not just staying up tight on the man, but actually getting a little bit of depth there before he then closes back in. Comes in with a tackle, knocks the ball out in the end with a little peanut Tillman punch. Bang! Just like what we like to see out of him. Beautiful. Again, kind of that press look to the bail, stay clean over the top. So he starts out in press on that play, but then ends up not allowing the receiver to get him over the top. Looks like kind of a cover 2 defense there. Kellen Mond, no, not happening. He doesn't have any interceptions, which is maybe your one questionable thing with him is where is he hands-wise? But he is good about getting his hands out on the ball, and he'll do a little Shaquille Griffin move just like that. That's what I'd call that there, where you knock the ball up to somebody else who has better hands than you. But and just closes that distance there. Gets us up to the receiver in the throw, able to make a play on the ball. Fairly well timed there. Nothing beautiful. Just gets it done. He doesn't panic with the ball in the air. And there's some skills for you jump-wise. I think he did a 36.5-inch vert on his pro day. I've been struggling to try to find some 40 numbers on him, but the man can definitely leap. Cover outside. They run a little game with him. He stays with it the whole way. Almost causes a number fumble. Just very, very solid all the way down the line. So let's look at a little bit of game tape on him. Here we go. Game footage is always the great teller for you. And again, we're going to have some limitations, being that this is an all 22 film and we're not able to see all the action happening every second of it here with the cornerbacks. But with that said, I think, again, we're going to get a decent idea with this guy. And as we look at this team, we've got a nice, tough matchup. Again, I'm always going to look for nice, good, challenging matchups against these NFL prospects. And today we've got ourselves a humdinger. Oh, Nelly. That's right. The Texas Longhorns, number 12th ranked team in the nation at the time here. Early season game against Oklahoma State, who was coming in 3-0. So we got a good little battle here. And, of course, our main man, Rodarius Williams, is going to be out there on the outside. Luckily, I think in this tape, you're going to see him marked for you, so you'll be able to get a better idea of where he's at pre-snap. So a good little challenge here for our guy. I think as we saw in our last highlights, he does get knocks out an interception at some point. So this is probably pretty good tape. All right, comes down, kind of makes a business decision, thinks as his guy's got it on that one. Kind of noticed that maybe coaching, maybe just his general trust in his feet. But when he comes up, good job coming up to lay the tackle there and keep that from getting you a first down. But he doesn't tend to lay a lot of that Duvernay there. Yeah, it looks like Duvernay. He does not do a lot in press. There we go, a little bit. Even there, he kind of just touches the guy, doesn't really lay a press down. It'd be interesting to watch this tape to see if he does a little bit more of that than what I've seen in other games of him. All right, come up and press look. There we go. Gets a little bit on him. There. A little on him there, but that was good. You can see him getting off coverage, playing kind of zone, just sort of watching them, read and react to what's going on. To me, this would fit well within Seattle's scheme. Comes up and makes the tackle, albeit pretty deep into the level there. But as we saw in his highlights, he's a willing tackler. I don't think there's a few corners are ever going to really be nasty about it. Just come up and get the job done. Oh, goes up over the top. Looks like Duvernay again. The guy went to the Baltimore Ravens in the last draft. Get a little off coverage look. They run a little whamsy-damsy. And nice aligned around. Another press look. Let's see if he lays a press. Kind of just gets his hands wide on the press. Doesn't actually look to land the punch. It's almost sort of just putting weight on the receiver, almost like just to kind of slow you down, slightly move. All right. Blocked up a little bit there. There we go, a little stab. I like it. I like it. I want to see him pressed. He's 6 foot. He's got it in him. He can run with anybody. A little close line of scrimmage, set the edge. Didn't really set the edge there. He'll make the tape look good because it looks like a hustle play, but his job's to set the edge on that prior play. All right. Ooh, he got beat. He got beat. Oh, look at that. There we go. Watch this now. He's beat. He's beat. Oh, I'm gonna get up on top of you. And look, he's going up against the guys. Obviously, doesn't have his speed, but he goes from it's those things I talk about in these prospects that sometimes where they effortlessly do something that you go, whoa, and just the subtle push there. I mean, just the subtle little just hand on the inside. Ref's not going to ever call that. Good stuff. Back up. He was ready in there. 3rd and 4, you'd like him to fly up a little bit there to maybe try to get the stop. And there's the tack on the other side. Good tape so far by our guy. That's not his fault over there. I'd love to get him up in this press look. Gets a little bit of the hands on. He's definitely on that play, riding him pretty far past that 5-yard point. Watch this. Yeah, see that's he's at 6, 7, 8 yards. He's still got his hands in there. If that ball comes to him, there's probably a flag coming at the NFL if he does that. College corners are allowed to be a little more grabby, I think. I see a lot more of them getting away with just being handsy. Ooh, goes for a stop and go. Does he get bit? He bites. He bites. There you got the recovery speed catches up. I mean, 85 is the same guy that was there before, right? We've learned that 85 is not going to have the speed to run away from our man. But you can see this moment right here. Bang. He starts to regain his acceleration. That's makeup speed. That's stuff you like. Doesn't really get in to make a play, just watches the man and tries to react to his hands because he's in a panic state. But it's fine. You know, they took advantage of seeing him get aggressive, I think, there in coverage. But something we've seen of him out the gate is he does have good makeup speed. 6 foot tall is so good, such a good size for a corner or two, where you're in that money range of still fast enough to flip their hips back around when they do get fooled like that. All right, run a little bubble. Come on, be strong, 2nd and 4. Yeah. Not as strong in the tackling game, watching the game footage off of what he was in his highlight package. See, that's a nice, that to me is that's very close to what you would teach and train in off the snap there. Turn your butt to the sideline and sort of the shuffle. I heard Richard Sherman's calls the move sort of the soft shoe, an old school term. But there he goes. Jumps right back in the route. And again, this is where I say and again. Do I say and again enough? I'm so enthused by this type of play because whether he's got the ball skills or not, he's got a quarterback who can be baited into throwing the football, and then he's going to make up speed to make a play on that ball and cause some problems. And you just really gravitate towards watching that where like the quarterback initially sees there's not a big opening of space there. He had good coverage pretty much throughout but it did look a little bit on the other angle as we saw from Ellinger's standpoint that it looked like there was a good body of separation there. And I'm guessing Sam's not going to throw at him again the rest of this game. But he has that makeup speed that you like. Not necessarily the ball skills to go with it, but does have the makeup speed. Yeah, Sam's not even looking over to the right anymore. He's just kind of like, boy, 85 had himself kind of a rough game today. And Ellinger doesn't help. You're playing with a limited quarterback. All right, he's going to try to run it in. Yeah, I like that. Just press to the bail. He's going to be very comfortable in Seattle's scheme and what they ask him to do with that and reacting off that. Like it a lot. Rodarius Williams, what is the bottom line? Well, I think we have a player that's going to be a very good NFL pro. When I looked at his initial notes that I had written down as I was initially scouting him, I always put a little nickname to all of these prospects that better sits in my head, just kind of what I wanted to say or think about with him at kind of first blush. And with him, I wrote the name Roberto Duran, a longtime fighter in boxing who went by the nickname Hands of Stone. Now, look, he's not ever going to catch a lot of interceptions in this league, but us Seattle fans have lived through that recently with Shaquille Griffin, a guy that just woke up in the morning and put a bunch of butter on each hands and said, I'm good. I don't know if it's because he was licking the butter off during the game or whatever, but it made it very hard for him to catch the football. So you've got a guy that's not going to catch a lot of balls out there, but he is going to be very good in coverage, or that one major skill that you ask of your corners, maybe above all else. And he's going to do it by having great familiarity with Seattle's type of scheme and what they're going to ask him to do. He can come up there and give a press look, drop into a bail technique, play his cover three. He's going to do that all day. He's not going to get beat over the top. I think that's going to be an easy lesson to get into his brain. And it sounds simple. Well, you just tell the corner right out the gate, you just not get beat over the top. So? It's a little harder than that. And especially when you think of it through the aspect of not only are you trying to protect against deep, and that's your number one priority, but you also need to do some route reading in your concepts to recognize those points and times where you can bail on that coverage that you're responsible for and come up and jump the route. Come up and make a play. Come up and cause a game-turning over interception at just the right time. Of course, Richard Sherman was the master of this. And I don't know if this guy would be that kind of master of it type to come up and make those picks, but he is in the respective. I think he has a lot of trust in his ability to stay clean over the top, where he doesn't need to make it that one thing at the forefront of his mind that he just is like saying in his head over and over again right before the snap, which is a little bit of what I got from Shaquille Griffin when he'd be playing here. Just protect deep, don't get me deep, don't get me deep, don't get me deep, don't get it. Well, yes, you don't get me deep, and it's not just that. You don't just do the one thing. So this guy, I think, would be able to do other things. He'd be able to come up and knock balls away on those short routes and not just make it easy money every time, as we've kind of seen sometimes on our corner play in recent years. I like his upside as well. Maybe he comes along with his hands a little bit and gets you a couple interceptions every year, along with being a fairly locked down type of guy. He's 6 foot tall, really a good ideal height, in my opinion, to where you can still flip your hips, but then you got still a little bit of length there to deal with the bigger wide receivers on the outside. I like his game. I'd feel very happy if the Seattle Seahawks drafted him. I probably see him going somewhere around in the 3rd round or so. Might even creep up into the 2nd round if you get a corner-needy team that just falls in love with him. I think his brother Greedy went up in the 2nd round or so in the last draft. But I would be most happiest if Seattle probably got him in around the 4th round or so. That'd be the money spot for me with him. Could be a little later, could be a little earlier. But either way, like the player a lot. Feel like he's going to be a solid pro. I feel pretty solidly on the stance of I don't think there's a big bust factor with this guy. He should be able to come in and at least be a league average cornerback in some zone scheme somewhere. And that's got some value, especially when you're talking about getting that guy almost out the gate when they just walk in the door. That's some tremendous value, and we need some more of that kind of value in the way we build our teams.